and Company.
Looking back at it, we definitely should have gone for it. One of those things, you look back at it and you say, of course we should go for it. We missed the field goal. But in that situation, we had a plan. I mean, we had a plan. We knew that 46 was the mark.
I like that Nathaniel Hackett said we definitely should have gone for it. That the plan thing, I think, is what threw him off. And that mark thing throws me off. Rod Woodson played in the NFL. He's going to be coaching in the XFL. He's coached everywhere. Rod, how are you? It's Steve and JVT here in Vegas.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys.
And we appreciate you coming on. So I wanted to go back a couple of days. And listen, you've coached, so you know how hectic it can be on the sideline. You played. What did you think of what you saw in the Denver-Seattle game? A 64-yard field goal to win, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, did I give my kicker a bunch of money, or did I give Russell Wilson a bunch of money? And I gave Russell a bunch of money for a reason. You know, yeah, they had a plan. You know, I don't know if that plan was the best. It was for them to get to that point and to try to field goal that long, which is, I mean, listen, it's not that many kickers can kick that long in the history of football, let alone that's playing today. I would have gave Russell another opportunity to get the first down. I mean, I gave him a bunch of money for a reason. I wanted him to make a play for us. Would have put it in his hands, and then hopefully get that chunk, take some yards off of that, and make it a little easier for the kicker to put it through the upright.
Ron, are there certain quarterbacks who would have, I don't know about permission, I don't think you'd have permission to do it, but have enough under their belt in terms of equity that they can say, you know what, timeout. Could Russell Wilson call a timeout there and go, Coach, we're not doing the right thing here?
And I can't remember their timeout situation.
They had a couple.
I don't know. Did they have two?
Yeah, I think they had two. Yep.
If they had two, I would have. I mean, Russell is to the point in his career. Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, you know, those type of guys. Aaron Rodgers. If they demand something, if they feel that they can get it, they want to go for it. You should listen to them. And those are guys that are playing. They've done it for a long time. They've been at the top of the quarterback classes every single year, year in and year out. I think you have to listen to those players. You have to believe in who they are. I know you have a game plan, but at times as a coach, you have to be pliable and flexible and adaptable to listen to your guys. That doesn't mean you're going to do exactly what they say, but it does mean listen to them. And if I was Russell, I would have been like, hey, man, 64 yards? There's not that many guys that kick the 64-yard field goal in the history of football. That's been over 100 years. So, you know, listen, I like my guy. Can he kick 64 yards? I don't know. So I would have really, you know, and Russell's not that type of guy, though. I could see where Tom would call timeout. I could see where Aaron would call a timeout, right? I could see those guys doing it. Sometimes it seems like Russell's a little passive, and I would like to see Russell be more aggressive in what he likes and when he wants to go for it on those fourth down situations.
You know, what's funny is I feel like the reason that Carroll and John Schneider in Seattle and Russell Wilson are split up is because Russell did want more power, and they basically told him to buzz off. So you'd figure he'd want to get involved. I'll throw another one at you. Again, you've coached. You're going to be the head coach of the XFL team here in Vegas. In the case of Hackett, when you're a first-time coach, should you be the head coach and the OC? Is there just too much going on?
No, I'm in agreement with him keeping it, unless he finds somebody that sees the game like him. You know, I coordinators, maybe the first-time head coach, it can be overwhelming. But at the end of the day, if you don't find somebody that sees the game like you, if you're an offense coordinator and now the head coach, and you become a defense coordinator and now you're the head coach, that sees the game like you and call the defense or the offense like you would call it, I think you should keep it. Is there more responsibilities on you? Yes, it is. But until you find somebody who sees the game like you, who's going to call the game like you, who feels and sees all that you see, because everybody sees the game a little bit differently with different lenses. I don't have a problem with that at all. I really don't. I always encourage those guys, if you don't have somebody that you've been around a long time, that you guys don't talk the same language, and you guys haven't really a game plan together that often, that you stay that guy for at least a year or two, and then you can give it over to the OC or DC, who now sees the game and hears the game. They at least understand your viewpoint, how the game should be called on both sides of the ball. So I don't have a problem with that at all.
Rod Woodson with us, Pro Football Hall of Famer, head coach of the XFL franchise out here in Las Vegas. So, Rod, I'm curious, as a guy who's going to be taking over a team here, we make so much about game plans, right, and getting ready for teams. For head coaches, how much time do you think should be spent on getting ready to manage games when it comes to clock management, timeouts, things of that nature? Because we see so many times where these guys are under the microscope. You're going to be under the microscope when it comes to you guys managing situations as opposed to actual X's and O's.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to manage your situational football. You really do. You have to understand. You have to put yourself in different scenarios. We've already started doing that in our game plan and our practices already, even though we're not starting until January. So we'll have our situations where it's 30 seconds, no timeouts. We're on the opposing 35. We need to get 25, 30 yards for a field goal attempt. And those type of things, I think we have to put ourselves through as coaches to see how we're going to respond to that. And then, you got to give yourself a little leeway, minute 30, the 2 timeouts. You're down by 1. You only have 20 yards to go. How are you going to call the game? Those type of things have to come into play, but you have to practice those things. If you don't practice them, you're going to get into that situation. You're going to kind of freeze up, and it won't be second nature to you. So that's one of the things that I know all the coaches I've been around who I have a lot of respect for. I've done a lot of situational football inside of the practices, getting themselves ready to call games, let alone getting the players. We always talk about the players, right? We always talk about situational football for the players, but that goes both ways for the players and the coaches. I think the coaches also got to get themselves ready how they're going to call a game in certain situations.
What's your stance on this surge in win probability analytics? It's been used as a pejorative term, but all of these numbers that have influenced decision making in football today.
Analytics is a good thing.
Yes,
but analytics are numbers without the human element. Football's a human element, so you got to keep it. I think you got to weigh the possibilities and understanding like how you're playing. Where you're at on the field, all those different things have to come into play. And at the end of the day, it's how your team is playing, how your kicker's feeling, how your quarterback's playing, how your defense is playing. All those things come into factor. Analytics is just a piece of paper telling you to do things in certain situations, which is good because you have that. But I think at the end of the day, you got to have some human element to it. You still got to believe in what you see on the field that day with your players, with your offense, with your defense, with your kickers, to make those decisions come the day of the game.
Rod Woodson's with Cofield and Company, former Raider player, former Raider coach. All right, what do you think of the Raiders? Because, a lot of the storyline coming out of the game was, man, this offensive line, but the coaches have kind of talked us down and said, hey, there were problems, but it wasn't just the offensive line when it came to protection. And I think they without mentioning them repeatedly, they kind of pointed the finger of blame at Derek Carr a little bit for not getting the ball out as quick as they wanted to at times.
Well, I watched the game. He had 3 interceptions. He had 2 touchdowns. I'm not in the building, so I don't know the calls and all that. If there's a wrong route or anything of that nature, but you do have to protect Derek. You got to protect any quarterback, and when quarterbacks are protected, it's a lot easier to play football out there. And they do have weapons, And I'm not blaming Derek, because I think it's still a close game. It was 19-24, but then when you look at the defensive side of it, where Derek got hit, Derek got pressured, Derek got he got taken out of the pocket quite a bit, right? And then we look at the defensive side for the Raiders. They didn't do that to Herbert. They got close to him a couple times, made him feel a little pressure. But, I would really challenge the defense to make sure that the offensive quarterback can't sit in the pocket and have his way. It's not only Derek, because, I think Derek is – we know they got a really good running game. Derek has some great talent. But you don't want them to score 30 points a game to win. They shouldn't have to do that. So I would really go back and say, hey, how we're going to pressure quarterbacks moving forward with our defense. They got some players over there too. We really do on the defense side of it. So I would see how they're going to redo that so the pressure can be put on quarterbacks. Because you got to think who they're playing this week. They got a running quarterback, right? I mean, this guy, you want to get Herbert out of the pocket, and you want to keep Murray. You want to keep him in the pocket.
Right.
So it'd be curious of how they're going to do this game plan to keep him in the pocket. You can't speed rush quarterbacks who like to get out of the pocket. So it'd be interesting to see what their game plan is going to be for the defensive side of it. I think Derek is going to play extremely well this week. I think they'll get the running game going. They have too many weapons not to score points. Derek could get that under control. He normally doesn't throw a lot of interceptions in a year, so I'm not too concerned about that.
I wanted to throw some numbers at you, and you tell me what you think as a defensive coach, a head coach, and a former defensive player. Derek Carr in game one was 12 of 15 for 145 and a touchdown, throwing to his right. To his left, he was 5 of 15 for 80 yards, a touchdown, and 2 INTs. Does that mean anything? And, when you played defense, did you know there was certain quarterbacks like, hey, if we get him to throw to the left or the right, he's just less effective?
You see that map on the field, but, I've never really paid attention to which side of the field they're throwing to. I'm really paying more attention to what formation they're in, what the receiver might be, as a whole, what formation they might be in. And at the end of the day, that's going to tell me how many different routes you're going to run, how many different running plays they're going to be in, I have the opportunity to get into. Some days you're hot going to the left. Some days you're hot going to the right. I think it fluctuates. I bet as the year goes on, that won't be the case every single week for Derek Carr and all the quarterbacks in the National Football League. You kind of see that map, week in and week out. If you go to Pro Football Focus, you can see where they throw well and they don't throw well. I think it fluctuates game in and game out. I don't put a lot of concern in that one.
All right. Rod Woodson with us. Let's close on this. We mentioned you're coaching our team in the XFL, going to start up in 2023. Why'd you sign up for this? Why'd you want to be in the XFL?
Because you always want to, if you ever coached anything, I don't care if it's, if you're the captain or the team leader or for soccer or, ping pong, it doesn't really matter, right? You want to be the head guy. You want to have an opportunity to do little league football, right?
Yeah.
You kind of like being the head guy where you get to pick your own staff. It'll be your culture that you can kind of fit into the players. And it has a great opportunity. I mean, obviously the NFL needs a feeder league. All they have right now is college. If they can find a feeder league where some of those players who come out need another year or two to kind of get going, either be it physically or mentally, they're not all there yet. But the NFL doesn't wait on you. They'll leave you behind. The train's going to leave if you have a ticket or not. So hopefully this can be the place where these guys can have a feeder league and they can hone their skills and then hopefully play at a high enough level that the NFL team will come and get them and say, you know what, you're our type of guy. We want you on our roster. And that's the end goal, I think, for the XFL. But also giving guys the opportunity to play pro ball. Because if you don't play in the NFL, I mean, outside the USFL that came in last year, right? And CFL, there really was no other place to play. There's no minor league. There's no AAA or anything of that nature. So you gotta. Hopefully they'll find this. This will be the place. This will be the home for the guys from here on out, and we can hone their skills for them to move forward and hopefully make better men and better football players.
I saw you tweet out your staff. What was that? Just yesterday. It's a pretty good group of experienced guys.
I got some really good guys. Another guy's going to be signing up. He just signed his contract today. That's another a longtime coach who's been around for quite a while to understand football. And then we got some younger guys that are going to be coming in a little bit later. But I think I got a really good staff. I mean, and my first hire was you can't be an a-hole. that was my first number one requirement. If you're an a-hole, we can't work together because I don't like being around those type of people. I don't need that in my life. So I got a lot of coaches who are not that way. So it's going to be fun.
Rod, if you ever need any help instilling culture, I was associate head coach of the Henderson Colts, and we won a title, Pee Wee football.
Right?
So I
figured you'd want to be like
There we
analytics
go. There we
guys.
go. That's what I'm talking about.
I had a bunch of 10-year-olds. We were, practicing win probability, metrics, all sorts of stuff. Well, we were sound.
You know what happened with those 10-year-olds? They grew up to be pretty good players.
There you go. Well coached. Rod, we appreciate the time, and we're looking forward to the XFL.
All right, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
There is Rod Woodson, Hall of Famer, former Raider coach, Raider player. Yeah, the whole staff is out, I think, except for the OC. Familiar name in Chris Dishman, former NFL player. Vikings is the DC. Jen Welter's on the staff. So remember her name? So we'll have to get Dr. Welter on. And then the other name, did you look at the staff?
I saw some bits and pieces.
O-line is Bob Wiley. Do you know Bob Wiley?
No.
Remember the guy from Browns and Hard Knocks whose stomach?
Yeah.
And his stomach always jumped?
I'm in.
We have to get him on.
Yes.
I'm making the request on the air. We have to get him on. I heard an interview with him probably a year ago, 2 years ago. He's actually he's a very regional sounding guy, but he is brilliant when he talks offensive line. Like you forget sometimes, even though guys have accents or they're quirky, like the top level coaches who coach in the NFL and college are very often, not all of them, very often brilliant dudes.
Join the conversation on Twitter at Cofield Co.
See what can happen at Chapman.
Hey, Las Vegas, John Hamrick here.